Okay, well, welcome everybody. Welcome to How to Win Your Next Screenplay Contest. I'm Bob McCullough. I've written and produced dozens of TV series, sold several pilots, and had feature scripts optioned by the major studios.
And I'm Suzanne Herrera McCullough. I began my career as an actress. I was almost famous, as my family would say, but after standing around on sets, reading lines someone else had written, I realized that the true creative power in film and television lies with the writers. Actually, I'm married to one. Um, and so between us, we have more than 300 produced film and television credits.
And as a producer, one of my favorite things was really discovering new writing talent, working one on one with new writers, and helping them to bring their work up to the professional level. It was always fun seeing the look on a new writer's face when he or she saw their first script turned into a finished film production.
So since then, after developing the Santa Barbara International Screenplay Awards, the Wiki Screenplay Contest, and the Los Angeles International Screenplay Awards, we've provided feedback on more than 20,000 screenplays and TV pilots.
I get a headache just thinking about it, but we have seen a lot of scripts, which gives us a pretty good idea of what it takes to actually win any one of today's leading script contests, including one of our own. And that's why we're here today, to give you our personal insights into exactly what you need to do if you want to win your next screenplay contest.
So, of course, the first question we need to ask is, and a lot of people ask this, why enter any contest at all? Are they really worth the effort and the expense?
Well, it's a question we hear a lot, and it's a very good one, because the old traditional, old school way of doing things, breaking into the business as a writer, was to have some sort of an inside track, and that meant you had to have an uncle who was a producer,
That would be good.
or better yet, an uncle who owned a studio.
That's
That
better.
it used to happen that way, and it was a great system for everybody who was connected, but it wasn't really that wonderful for everybody else.
So the answer to the question, are contests worth it, is yes. They actually are a great way to get noticed and get professional career started.
But you need to have a good idea what to expect when you enter a screenplay contest. And there's some basic things you might look for.
Any written feedback you pay for needs to be more than just mere coverage. It should be in-depth analysis of the major elements present in any good script. Then does the contest have some name recognition?
Well, this often has a lot to do with where the contest is administered or who's behind it. For example, and I love the city of Omaha, but there's quite a bit of a difference between winning the Greater Omaha Screenplay Contest and a West Coast competition like the Santa Barbara or the Los Angeles Screenplay Awards.
Winning a contest based in a major production center or that involves industry veterans with produced credits can give you bragging rights you might not find in Omaha. That leads to the next question, of course: which contests are worth entering and which contests are actually legitimate?
Well, when you're trying to figure out which contests are worth your time and your money and your effort, because it does take all three of those, you need to ask some questions like, does the contest identify their judges? How connected are the senior level judges to the industry? Do they have actual produced mainstream film or television credits?
Or are they members of one of the professional industry guilds like the Screen Actors Guild, Directors Guild, or the Writers Guild of America? Or are they just film students, no offense, or aspiring writers with no credits of their own?
Yeah, we see a lot of like unpaid interns at other contests. The other thing you want to find out is, do they provide impartial feedback or analysis from people who have actually been in the business of writing and selling their writing? Good written feedback can often help you to quickly bring your script right up to the professional level.
Another way to determine if a contest is legit is to look at their coverage, which means they should show you samples of their feedback. How do they assess the scripts that they entered into their contest? Is it just a score sheet, or do they discuss elements within the script in some detail? Then, are they responsive to your questions? Do they answer emails the same day, or do you hear crickets after you've sent them your money?
The other thing you want to find out is, do they have a track record of positive testimonial from writers who've actually benefited by winning or placing as a finalist in that contest? A contest should have some verifiable testimonials either on their website, and I mean verifiable, not just things they make up, or on their Film Freeway listing, which is really the most verifiable way to look at testimonials. Less than a dozen testimonials on Film Freeway, that could be a problem.
Before entering a contest, be sure you understand what the contest is all about and what it's offering. And I just want to bring up, be careful of the screenplay contests that promise you things they cannot deliver, such as agents, managers, etc.
And more of them are doing that. Send us your script, we'll get it produced. That's really a specious claim. So you want to be sure also to review the contest rules, particularly those about page count limits, because you want to be sure you're entering the right contest for your script genre. And there are many contests specifically for the action thriller genre, historical dramas, rom-coms, the list goes on. But you want to be sure to submit in the right category for your script.
Then be sure to convert your script to PDF before submitting it. If you submit a script in Word file or a final draft, you can run the risk of being disqualified and losing your entry fee. So now let's talk about the script itself. You need to know what a contest reader expects and what turns them off.
Well, that's a good thing because the readers are really your first gatekeeper. So the first thing is your cover page needs to be properly formatted.
Yeah.
The only things that should be on your cover page are your title, your name, and your contact information, but don't include your home or mailing address.
Whatever you do, don't use fancy fonts or embellish your cover with artwork of any kind.
We've seen some very fancy fonts and some beautiful covers, but they really stop the reader cold. You also don't want to put your log line on the cover. It may be the greatest log line ever, but it can also be a great excuse for a reader not to open a script because they might think, oh, I already know what it's about.
And as tempting as it may seem, don't plaster copyright notices or WGA registration numbers on the cover of your script. Those are actually the signs of an amateur. Even though we're very proud to have those,
right.
You need to know where to put it.
I mean, copywriting a script is a fine idea. It costs a couple of $100. Registering with the Writers Guild is not a bad idea, but it makes you look like you're a paranoid writer. So I think it goes without saying that your script really needs to be professionally formatted.
Failure to format properly can doom your chances in a screenplay contest as well as out there in the real world.
And if you have questions or concerns about formatting, please take a look at my little book, Stop Screwing Around and Format Your Screenplay Like a Pro. Here, I'll show it to you.
It's one of the most common questions that we get asked.
Yeah, it's available at Amazon. It's very straightforward, bottom line, and it's really the quick guide to making your script read easily and professionally.
It's a little book with a lot of information. One of the great tips in your book, Bob, is all about white space.
Right.
White space is your friend.
That's my theory, certainly, because it's really all about making things easy to read. Remember, you want to make the reader happy. Your first person to make happy is the reader. And more white space, the faster it reads, the easier it is, the more they're going to like you as a writer. So right now, let's talk about the strategy for writing a winning script.
Okay. One of the best ways to draw a reader in quickly is to make sure you have something actually happening on the first page. And you want to avoid long set pieces, stage directions anywhere in your script, but you really want to avoid long blocks of text describing a scene on your first page.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than opening a script and it looks like a history textbook, right? You want some dialogue right away and some action, break things up into sequences. So you need to get your characters talking and moving very early. And you do that by setting up your hero protagonist right away. We want to know who is he or she, what's their big problem, and what's standing in their way. If you can get that set up in your opening pages, you'll have hooked your reader right off the bat.
Another strategy for winning a contest is to write a script with a highly marketable concept. Is your story the kind of movie today's audience wants to see? Is it popular genre? For example, today it might be difficult to get anyone excited about reading a post-Civil War Western.
Yeah, I think once Clint Eastwood stopped making Westerns, they kind of faded out of favor.
It'll come back.
Audience. Everything comes back, but today I wouldn't be writing a Western. So you need to look at the current marketplace trends, which really tend now to favor female leads or stories of progressive social and cultural issues that have very inclusive casting elements.
Okay, so and now for some basic facts. Be careful with your page count. Try to avoid going over 120 pages. A properly written script should play at 1 minute of screen time per script page.
That means a 90-page script might be regarded more favorably than, say, a 140-page historical epic, simply because every producer is highly budget conscious, and it's a lot easier to raise the financing for a 90-minute movie than for a 2.5-hour saga.
And then you want to work hard to make your hero as unique and memorable as possible, and to make your protagonist's objectives crystal clear as early in the script as possible. As I said, if you want the reader to know what the problems are at the very onset, so that you're pulled into the story as quickly as possible.
You know, when you're writing to win a screenplay contest, as tempting as it may be to voice your personal political or social opinions or expressing a controversial point of view, that can be kind of a turnoff for a reader who may not share your point of view. So be very careful about editorializing, preaching, or trying to sway someone's opinion. Your script should be entertaining, because what you want is a happy, entertained reader.
And try to write as visually as possible. Remember, a screenplay isn't a novel. It's supposed to be a movie. That means a reader needs to actually see the movie just by reading the words on your pages. So write visually and avoid explanations. Show, don't tell.
Again, a screenplay is not a novel. You want to avoid being perceived as literary or difficult to understand. That means you need to really avoid obscure, erudite vocabulary, and as much as possible, reduce the use of superfluous adjectives and adverbs.
Like for an example, try not to write, he actually, or he carefully aims the glistening chrome plated rim fire colt at the target, when you can just simply say, he aims the gun.
Right. 4 words instead of 12 or whatever that was. It was quite a description you
Yes.
gave there. Again, you should be able to read each page in 60 seconds or less, the same time it should take to play on the screen. Remember, the secret to making a reader happy is to make your script read quickly and easily. And a happy reader is much more likely to single your script out as a contest winner.
Then as this and then this is the crucial moment. When you come to the end of your script, based on everything that's gone on before in your story, try to fulfill the reader's expectations as logically and as memorably as possible.
Well, that's because a good script or good movie leaves the reader or the audience satisfied both logically and emotionally. That's what they used to call the classic Hollywood ending.
Well, I personally like happy endings, but I know not every movie ends that way.
Right. She's a big fan of the classic happy ending. So after you've entered, you want to be sure to calendar the deadline for entries and the announcement date. In other words, make a note in your schedule. You want to know when what's the deadline for entry, and when are they going to announce the winners.
In the meantime, review any paid feedback you've received, and then let it rest.
You have to keep this in mind, right? 99% of scripts don't win, but don't overreact to either your scores or the feedback you've received. Remember, it's your script, so be careful about making too many radical changes too quickly. Use the feedback you agree with. It's your script, and then get busy rewriting.
That's right. That's one of the most important things to remember. It's your script with many opinions, but you have to do what your heart tells you. We've seen many scripts finish far out of the running, only to come back as a second draft and ultimately place as a finalist. And we've even seen some that have won the contest.
Right.
Yeah.
We've had entries come back 3 and 4 times, and every time the script gets better,
Yeah.
and finally it wins the contest. And then some good things can happen for those writers. So be honest with yourself and analyze the script yourself. Look at the same elements that contest readers are looking at, and ask yourself the tough questions.
Well, is there a strong, identifiable protagonist that we care about? Is there an equally strong antagonist with it, an identifiable agenda?
Is there conflict in every scene? Or are there scenes that are merely kind of placeholders, not really driving the story forward? Very important. Is it a marketable concept? Is this a movie the audience will pay to see?
Is the dialogue unique to each character? Does the dialogue make things progress, or are the characters just talking? Your dialogue really needs to make the scenes move forward.
The other thing is, your reader has to be emotionally invested in your characters and what the characters are going through. You want to be sure the reader cares about what happens to your characters so they can feel really involved in your story.
That means that your theme needs to be relatable and easily identifiable. If we can't tell what your story is actually about beyond its plot points, you may not have a story worth the reader's time and effort.
Right. I mean, it has to be more than just things happening. They have to happen for a
It
reason.
has to flow.
And the characters have to really care about the outcome of what's
Mhm.
going on. So that brings up the question of pacing. Readers have to be able to read your script with some tempo. That's why I'm such a big fan of white space on your page. The easier a script reads, the better the pace. The faster a reader will feel energized and feel like they're part of the action. Winning scripts basically are page turners.
That brings up a point for me. I just realized I'm the queen of long texts. And the other day, a friend of mine sent me a very long text, but it was one after another. It was like 5 texts, and it was much easier to read because there was white space. One text came to an end,
Yep.
and then another one came, and it was much easier to read. Anyway, and of course, your script must have a recognizable dramatic structure. That means pretty obvious beginning, middle, and end. Just the classic English lesson. It's a classic 3-act structure with a story driven by a series of inciting incidents.
Right. And we often see writers try to do something they get creative. They do something very different. They ignore classic three act structure and they come up with something of their own.
Which kind of works for Tarantino.
Yeah. But you can't do, like, we've seen scripts with 6 flashbacks within a flashback. While those scripts can be very interesting, they're really not satisfying to readers and they rarely win a contest.
You need to remember a screenplay contest is about the writing, which means the tone of your writing needs to match the theme, the genre, and the character beats.
Right. Comedy scripts should be a lot of fun, and finally, I think a major point, be true to your concept. Is it high concept, like how your hero saves the planet from a meteor storm? Or is it low concept, like the story of a nun coming to terms with their lack of faith? It doesn't really matter. Whatever the concept is, whether it's superhero action, personal tragedy, solving a crime, climbing a mountain, be sure you're committed to your concept in every scene of the script and make sure your protagonist is active throughout the script. Your protagonist needs to be involved in what's going on.
So we hope so far this has been helpful. And I noticed that there's a series of questions. So let's take on some questions.
Great.
The first question is from Jeremy. How many screenplay contests should I enter?
Well, that's a great question, Jeremy. I think you should enter as many as you feel comfortable with, but 1 or 2 really should give you a clue as to whether or not your script has any real merit, particularly if you're getting good feedback from people who really know what they're doing. That means I would avoid contests where they don't name their judges or where the judges they do name don't have any real professional credits if they're not Writers Guild members, things like that. So I would limit your entries, certainly at the outset, to maybe 3 at the very most, but get that feedback and then do something about it, right?
We've often been asked, should I enter or should I enter the same screenplay at the same contest? Not necessarily. You can enter 3 or 4 contests with the same script and see what kind of notes come from those 3 different screenplay contests.
Oh, Victor has a question because of what you said about your text. He says, what kind of text was it that went on page after page?
Well, this
is on her cell phone, right?
You have to be a woman to understand that.
Right.
I mean, I can write a long time.
It probably has something to do with driving kids to school and back, that sort of a thing. So let's see. Dana has a question. She says, if I win a contest, will I be able to get an agent? You want to take that?
Well, again, that goes back to a lot of screenplay contests promise agents and producers and managers, and that's a whole different animal. What our screenplay contests promise is to make your script the very best script possible to move you to that next step. Now, that's not to say in the past, agents and managers have reached out to us
Right.
because they know that we run so many screenplay contests, and they have asked us to forward them some screenplay winners. But that is not what we promised, but that is what we do with the permission of the writer, if that should come up.
Yeah, I think you have to understand this. The industry has been around for quite a while. Managers have been around forever, and so have agents. But a contest that promises you're going to get a manager, or if they promise anything, um, I'd be very careful about that, because it's easy to say things, but nobody ever really follows through. We've seen lots of disappointed writers who entered major screenplay competitions, which have promised, I'm going to get you a producer, we're going to make your film. And all they really want is your commitment to send them some more money. So be very, very careful about that.
Right, right.
So let's see.
As
Anthony has a question there.
Anthony, I've entered 2 contests with the same script, and each of them have had different notes, which is confusing. Should I make the changes everyone wants?
Well, that's a great question. It's fairly common, but here's the deal. Anybody you give your script to will have their own opinion. If you give your script to 10 different people, you will get 10 different opinions.
Mhm.
My suggestion is get a couple of opinions. Don't send it to your mother. She's going to love your script and think you're a genius, okay? But give your script to somebody who knows what they're talking about, who's done this before. I mean, one of my big gripes is, why would anybody take advice from somebody who's never done it, right? So if you can get advice from somebody who's actually done it, then look at that advice and move on. Remember, it's your script. You're responsible for what's in it. If you don't agree with what they're saying, ignore it. On the other hand, you'll find maybe just a part of what they're saying has some real validity. Like maybe the dialogue speeches are too long in your script, or maybe there's an illogical plot twist. You want to look at that stuff very carefully, but you're in charge. That's the great thing about being a writer. You get to be the one who makes the decisions. So be very careful about overreacting to everybody's opinions.
So Nicole has a question. I've heard that screenplay contests sometimes aren't really worth it.
Good question.
Well, that goes back to what we were talking about. If you enter a screenplay contest solely to get an agent or a manager, it probably will not be worth it, because a lot of the screenplay contests promise that, and they will not deliver. Very few do. A screenplay contest should really be qualified readers and judges judging your script, and to give you notes on how to make it better so you can move forward to get an agent or a manager or even a producer.
Right, right. One of the things I want to emphasize, nobody's going to get you a manager. You're going to get the manager yourself with your writing and with with the concept that when you're a writer breaking into the business, you're really in the business of, if your name is John Smith, you're in the John Smith business, right? You need to get out there and promote yourself. It's really about marketing yourself as well as your script. So I think screenplay contests are very much worth it if you're getting the right kind of feedback from them. So,
and they're qualified.
yeah.
And then Jeffrey says, why do you have so many screenplay contests?
Well,
we have 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it started.
They're all different.
They're all different.
Mhm.
Exactly. The Santa Barbara International Screenplay Awards is really the one that focuses on the very best quality of written feedback. We also provide live consultations on your script. That's a 60 to 90 minute live Zoom call, just like this one, where I go through your script line by line with you, with the script on the page, and I make notes right on the screen. And then, so we really emphasize the quality of the written feedback. It's very extensive. The Wiki Screenplay Contest, on the other hand, gives you very incisive, to the point responses, and you get it very quickly. You don't have to wait 4 to 5 weeks to get a response, to get your feedback. The Wiki, we pride ourselves in turning things around within several days. It's a 30-day contest. There's a new winner every 30 days.
Our readers are on it. Our judges are reading it.
It's a
and
20,
then we read it.
It's a 24/7 operation, and it's very high tempo. Writers love it because they're getting very quick feedback and very quick contest results. And that's one of the contests where we've seen people come in and do very poorly, take some notes, come back subsequent months, and 3 or 4 months later, they're winning the contest. And we've seen some big things happen. We've actually seen people do very, very well.
And Albert says, do I really need final draft to write my script with?
Well, I have an opinion about that because
You have a big opinion about that.
I hated Final Draft when it first came out, and I was doing everything in Word, and then I had Movie Magic, and I had all these kind of low end cheapo programs that would help me like create the right margins and things like that. This is after years of me tabbing and tabbing using Word. Final Draft, however, has through their marketing and the fact that it's a very powerful, accurate program, it's become the industry standard. And I know it's expensive, but if you have friends that have it, they might be able to get you a copy. I'm not suggesting you get anything pirated, but there are workarounds, and it is the industry standard. It takes an hour or so to get used to, but once you've got it down, you will write so much faster and more efficiently, and then you can always export it as a PDF.
Well, that sounds so complicated.
It's not really. It's not really. And you can't send any material out that isn't in PDF form. I'd be very careful about ever sending anything out in a format where somebody else can alter your words.
So Maureen has a question. Has anyone who has entered your contest ever gotten an agent or gotten a job? The answer is yes.
Many.
And yes.
Many,
yeah,
many.
Yeah. We have a lot of people, and I think we have some testimonies on.
We have testimonials to that effect that they're on Film Freeway,
Yeah,
as well as on our website. If you check out the winners on the websites for both the Santa Barbara International Screenplay Awards and the Wiki Screenplay Contest, you'll see what we call it's a writer's showcase, and those writers describe the success they've had. We've had people get staffed at Netflix. We've had people who don't even live in LA get major managers.
And that's solely though on their script. It wasn't because we promised them that. It's their scripts gotten that much better.
Right.
And then they went on to find agents, and then they found great jobs.
These people are also, they're good writers and they're self-starters, as I said before.
Victor has a question here. Can I mention on my title page that my script is based on my comic book series?
It's not necessary, because what really matters is what's between the covers, right? You can tell them it's based on, I don't care who, a famous author's work. It doesn't matter. What matters is what's on the page in your script. So there's no reason, it's not really a selling point unless it's based on, you're the original creator of Batman or Spider-Man or something. If it's just a comic that you've come up with, or it's something that's not really well known, it really won't have much impact. I would emphasize a great first 5 pages.
Great. So I think that's it.
Wait, I have one more question I want to answer, because Joan asked a very good question. She says, how do I promote a multiple award-winning script?
Well, first of all, congratulations.
Really.
That's hard to do.
It must be a good script. Joan, I would recommend that you consider yourself, as I mentioned before, you're in the Joan business, right? Your script will stand on its own, but you need to get yourself out there. That means build a website page, get on forums, chat groups, participate in, well, things like this, and reach out to other writers. I've seen on Reddit some very good advice and some really active writers groups. You have to promote yourself, not just the script. The fact that it's won multiple awards is wonderful, but producers, managers, agents, they're going to be much more interested in you as a writer than in a particular script.
I think something that you have not mentioned, and it's more important than any of them, is contacts. And how do you get those contacts? It doesn't matter what state you live in or what little city. Everybody has film festivals.
Right.
They have plays. You need to be active. You can meet people, tell them about your script. You just be active in that kind of community.
Well, that's the old networking thing, right?
Yeah, that does not change.
And I wish it weren't. I wish the term had not been networking, because that sounds very complicated and sophisticated, and I really have to get dressed up and all that kind of stuff. Go to cocktail parties. That's really not what it's about. The internet has made things really accessible, so you can just jump into the internet, find these contacts, reach out to people, and introduce yourself. It's all about people.
And last one, Victor says, you guys were great.
Oh.
I had to say that. Makes me feel good. And he has read our books.
Oh, great.
Well, thank you very much. Victor, keep at it. Don't give up.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
And I guess we'll see you at the movies.